Welcome to Game Misconduct. I'm CT here with Dory.
Hello.
Don't forget to follow us on social media. Search for Game is with a Z Conduct. All right, let's talk about the week that was last week. And well, I'd say pretty good. Lightning had 15 goals for the week, to the other team's 4 total. So, okay, things are good.
Yeah, I mean, I think, we always talk about it that December is when you start figuring out what's going on,
Yeah.
who the teams are. And I think we've kind of established who this team is. I think in the beginning of the year, some of the hunger, we'll call it, was questioned. Um, how bad do these guys want it? Or they just so used to winning.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we're seeing that like, no, this team knows who they are and what they are. Um, and I think we've established, I mean, they're like you said, 15 goals, the other team's 4 is a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm very, very looking forward to the Toronto game. I feel like Toronto is going to be one of those kind of benchmark games in a way.
Yep.
To kind of really, really, see who this team is. I mean, and I don't, no shade to Columbus, um, or Montreal, but Maple Leafs are a little bit more. I guess we should. I don't want to say in their realm or on their level, because they've lost 6 times in overtime, right? Which is
Yeah.
the Maple Leafs. So, but I do feel like it's a better matchup for the Lightning. I think it's more evenly matched. So looking forward to that, and then seeing what happens with Detroit on Wednesday.
Yeah, and like looking at the games, especially the first 2 well, yeah, I'd say first game of the 3 games was against Seattle at home. And I mean, you saw Ian Cole, Eric Chernak, Corey Perry, all get on the score sheet for a goal. So it's
Hmm.
nice to see those deeper lines starting to score and a
Yeah,
defenseman. Obviously, you've got Brayden Point, Ross Colton, Steven Stamkos, Nikita
yeah.
Kucherov, uh, Brandon Hagel scored 2 in the game against Columbus. I think he also scored 2 in
Mm,
the game. Yeah, scored 2 in the game versus Montreal. Sorelli on the board, which is nice to see after him being out for the beginning of the season.
yeah,
So when you've got, and we've talked about it before in the past, especially that Stanley Cup winning year, both Stanley Cup winning years, when you have 4 lines rolling where they're all scoring, that makes a huge difference. Because a
yeah,
lot of teams have 2 really good defensive pairings, 2 decent ones. And if you got 4 lines that can score, they don't have enough defense to really stop them all. So that's
yeah.
why it's so important to have that deep scoring on a team. And we're seeing it now. And like you said, around the Christmas time, you start really seeing the identity of every team. And like the identity of the team really hasn't changed much. I mean, there have
Hmm.
been big pieces that left at the beginning of the season, but they're still a high scoring, fast team. Uh, but it's a little different.
Yeah,
Like,
I
and
feel like we're
I can't
starting.
figure out what that difference is, but it's a little different than the last 3 or 4 years.
So I think looking back to the trades that were made last season. Um, Nick kind of just, yeah, he just kind of acclimated himself really quickly.
Nick
Um,
Paul?
Nick Paul, yeah.
Yep.
And just kind of like became, the new fan favorite type of guy. Everybody
Nick
loved
Paul can
him.
do it all.
Yeah. Real, real hard worker type guy who John Cooper, of course, that's his what he wants. And Brandon Hagel came from Chicago, in which he was the second leading scorer on that team last year until he came here. And he was like kind of underwhelming, I guess is the best way to underperforming a little bit. I said, okay, well, the Blackhawks aren't a very good hockey team, the Lightning are a good hockey team. So it's kind of like there's not enough room
Yeah.
for, 13, 12, 13 forwards to all be superstars. But then I think he started figuring out what his role was
Mm-hmm.
and how he can fit in on his line. And you see him become a lot more comfortable. Yes, he's been scoring, quite a bit recently. I think that's going to keep going.
Yeah.
Kind of like Ross Colton. When Ross Colton first started getting going, man, it was like, oh, okay. And everybody's like, oh, where'd this guy come from?
Yep.
Because when you're on a team with the Steven Stamkos and the Nikita Kucherovs and these other guys, you have to like stand out. You have to. You're just not going to get the puck. You're not going to be a big contributor. So I think when also Palat, when Andre Palat left, there was a big hole, and
Yeah.
somebody had to fill that hole. And you had Braden Point that was coming off the injury. You had Cirelli who wasn't there, and then when all those pieces got put in place, then you kind of Palat's not going to get replaced as a player, but I mean his role, his spot. Everybody's a different player, but you saw that now. I think no, not now. I think what since November,
Yeah.
and in November, start now taking shape, and everybody saying this is my role, this is what I do, this is what I can bring to the table, and they've learned to all work together.
Yeah.
Because we could say it wasn't that many pieces that left. It wasn't that many, but they were pretty important pieces.
Yeah. They were.
Jan Rudel was a huge part of that defense last year.
Yeah.
And Andre Palat's been a big part of this offense for years. So it wasn't a lot of spots to fill, but they were
It was enough. Yeah.
pretty big ones.
It didn't shake up the core so much, but
Right.
they were very important pieces for the wholeness of the team. So, yeah, can't say enough great things about the play they had last week. So let's just keep it rolling through the last 2 weeks of the year. Tonight at Toronto at 7 p.m. I know you said you're very much looking forward to this game, Dory.
That stinking Mitch Marner. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay.
He's kind of like the lightning killer.
Yeah.
I mean, like every game he plays against the Lightning is just a blowout, and I'm really over it. So I'm hoping they can shut it down. But yeah, that one, and seeing what happens with Detroit, because I do think that was a little bit of
Oopsie.
a glitch,
Yeah.
little glitch in the matrix there.
Yeah. So that's a back-to-back playing tomorrow in Detroit. So not a huge bunch of travel, but enough.
And I don't think we brought it up last week, but Brian Elliott is playing lights out when he's being called upon between, in the net. I think he's won 6 straight or whatever it is at this point. So, I anticipate we'll see him. We'll definitely see him. I just don't know if it'll be, tonight or Detroit.
Right. Friday night, they will be in Buffalo for a game against the Sabres. And then they are back home for the last week of the year. And this is actually our last show of the year. So we'll kind of just touch on that quickly. They have the Christmas holiday off and they get back in action with a back-to-back at-home games versus Montreal on Wednesday, the 28th. So Montreal will be back in town. And then on the 29th versus the New York Rangers. And then a New Year's Eve matinee at 5:00. Is that considered a matinee? I think so. 5:00 versus Arizona Coyotes. And that rounds out the December 2022 schedule. And then they hit the road again for the first week of January, hitting Chicago, Minnesota, and Winnipeg.
Yeah. Which that Central Division trip is always like a crapshoot.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I should say always and then sometimes, but I mean, it always feels like a crapshoot.
Yeah.
Minnesota, I don't know why. I don't know why. Nobody knows why. Nobody knows why.
And I don't know why. I don't know. That's from like SNL. I don't know. I don't have a reference for that, but I don't know why. I think it's a Dana Carvey impression. But anyway, yeah, so Montreal back to back with New York. I mean, yes, the Lightning beat Montreal in Montreal 5-1, but it is the first game after the Christmas holiday. So that one's kind of always a crapshoot. And then New York is always an interesting game. I'm sure there will be lots of Montreal jerseys and lots of New York jerseys in the stands because people will be probably visiting their family members down here trying to get out of the snow. But it's going to be cold the next 2 weeks, actually. So
Yeah.
wear your jerseys now, everybody, because it's cold enough to wear. It's going to be a little chilly in Florida, but yeah. So a packed 2 weeks to round out the year. And then we will be back with you the first week of January, probably, to kick off 2023, believe it or not. And there are a lot of home games coming up in the next couple months. I believe March, there are tons. There are a lot of games in March, to be honest.
And that's an important time of year. So.
Yeah. Let's see, January, they about split the difference. They're away, they're home, they're away, they're home. They will do a West Coast trip, Canada and Northern America, St. Louis and Seattle, for like a week and a half before they come back to Tampa and have a couple really big games. So a busy couple of months coming up for the Tampa Bay Lightning, but I feel like they're in a good place right now. Like, just keep it up. Keep doing what you're doing.
Yep.
Definitely playing better than the Bucks are playing right now.
Yeah, sorry about that.
That was, a bummer. But the Bucks are still number one in the division because the NFC South is NFC South, right? It's terrible. But unfortunately, the Lightning don't have that luxury. They have to keep winning games and tying wins together. So, all right, Dory, happy holidays to you and your family. Thank you.
Happy holidays to you and everybody out there, and be safe and stay warm.
Stay warm. Enjoy hockey. The New Year's Day game will be on. I forget who's playing in that game. But the Winter Classic, I believe. Is that the Winter Classic? Yeah, because we did the Lightning did the Stadium Series.
Right.
That's where I get confused. So
yeah,
the Winter
it
Classic.
is confusing. It's confusing because they started with one and then they added the other one, and now nobody knows.
So the Winter Classic is going to be in Boston versus the Pittsburgh Penguins. That is correct. It's in Fenway Park, and puck drops at 2 p.m. on Monday, January 2nd, actually. So that'll be a great game, actually. I'm kind of excited to see that one.
Yeah, a lot of yellow and black.
Lots of yellow and black. All right, Dory, thank you so much. Thank you for listening. Hope you and your family have a safe and happy holiday. And here's to 2023, and we will catch you next time.